Okay. I'm just going to share screen.
Awesome. Yeah, I see folks coming in now. And then Mike, when I leave, I should just be able to make you the host. I actually did this yesterday for a different session. You should be good to go then.
Okay.
On your
And
end,
as host, I can,
do all things.
yeah.
And you're able to see the attendees coming in and the participant list. You might just have to click the
Oh,
participant.
I do. I
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah. Awesome. Well, we have some
And
with us.
are they just automatically joining or do I need to let them in?
Yeah, no, folks should be in right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always odd when I can't see their,
Yeah.
even a blank window is sometimes better than nothing because right now. So anyway, hi, if there's people out there.
Hi, folks.
Hello.
Okay.
Welcome. We'll get started in a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you the host and log out.
Okay.
You should be good. I just did this yesterday with Lori and Kim for a disability services one, but just send me a quick email if anything happens.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks so much for hosting this, Mike. And folks
Yeah.
who are here, thanks. Hang with us just a minute as some more folks join on. We'll get started soon. So yeah,
Great. Thanks, Nick.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. As Nick said, that we'll get started in a couple minutes. We're still expecting a few more people. And can everybody hear me okay? I think that you can either chat or I think that probably is the best way. Let me know if you can hear me. Great. Oh, chat is disabled. Q&A. Yeah, I think that's okay though. So if anybody does have any questions before we get started or throughout, I'll say this again, but just let me know if you have any questions. Okay, maybe just wait one more minute. We're expecting a few more people, but get going around 5 after, which is now. Okay, I'll just get started. Hello, I can't see anybody on my screen, so hopefully you are there. And hopefully you can either see me, I hear from somebody that you can hear me. But my name's Michael McGuire. I go by he, him pronouns, and I'm from Counseling and Psychological Services. I'm a clinician at CAPS, and I've been at CAPS for about 14 years. And so today's little talk, it'll maybe be 10, 15 minutes. I'm just going to talk about the services that CAPS provides, as well as a few on and off campus resources for mental health resources. But mainly it's going to be about CAPS services. So hopefully you found yourself in the right place, and here we go. Oh. There we go. And there we go. Okay. So CAPS, as I said, Counseling and Psychological Services. We are licensed clinicians and we see a wide range of mental health concerns. We're prepared to see anybody who comes through our door, regardless of any kind of symptoms that somebody might be experiencing or previous diagnoses. We're prepared to meet anybody and everybody where they are. And for a lot of those reasons, we are fully prepared to see those students as counselors on campus. For certain specialty areas, like if somebody's been seen for a long time by a therapist, and by a long time, I mean, like ongoing, and they just want to get set up with somebody to continue ongoing for the duration of their academic career at Seattle U, we might help them get set up off campus because CAPS, our services are short term. Or if somebody had some specialized needs like eating disorder concerns or substance abuse concerns, things of that specialized nature, we would help them get set up with somebody off campus. But the most common reasons that students do come to campus to CAPS on campus are depression, anxiety, relationship concerns. Um, Relationship concerns, I understand, is a very vague term. It could be anything from parental relationship concerns with your parents or caregivers or roommates or romantic relationships, siblings. Um, it could be possibly with nobody at all, right? Maybe that's the concern, is a desire to be in relationship with people and feeling their own blocking of allowing that to happen. So relationship problems really covers a whole range of things. Sometimes it bridges into anxiety and depression. Anxiety, a lot of students experience transitional anxiety, culture shock, culture anxiety, social anxiety, test anxiety, again, anxiety and depression. All three of these things are very vague and cover a large spectrum of things that, again, CAPS is very prepared to see. And we offer individual teletherapy services. We also offer in-person services. We're calling it hybrid, but we can do teletherapy or in-person services. We're going to be starting doing groups in the fall. We used to offer groups a long time ago before COVID, but because of COVID, we stopped doing groups. But a lot of times the groups are on anxiety, depression, and relationship concerns, as you could imagine. And I have a cat that's joining us here. Our business hours, about our services as well. We will start offering urgent care hours at some point in the fall. And urgent care would be something where somebody didn't have an appointment and couldn't wait for an appointment to be set up, needed to be seen relatively sooner. So we will start offering urgent care hours. We just don't have that set up yet. Again, because of COVID, we stopped doing that for the past 3 years. Our business hours, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. We're closed for lunch, and there's our telephone number. We also have a website with all this information, as well as a lot more information, as you can imagine. And it's just the SU website /CAPS. So a lot of information on there that I'll be going over today. Our staff is made up of licensed clinicians. We don't have any trainees on staff. We don't have a training program, so we're all licensed clinicians. We also have a case manager, somebody who could help set somebody up with referrals off campus if that was appropriate or wanted. And then we also have an administrative assistant. The eligibility to use our services, you just have to be currently enrolled. So we're not yet seeing students who haven't yet started at SU, but on day one, we'll be able to see those students. And then over any breaks, we would be able to see the students. So even summer break, and we call that continuous student. If you have classes through the spring and then they're starting in fall again, we would be able to see that student over the summer. And then because the licensed therapists at CAPS are all licensed in Washington State, students must be in Washington State when we see them, either virtually or obviously in person. I guess we could sit right on a state line and see each other in person and be in two different states, but we're not going to do that. So we offer, as I said, short-term individual teletherapy and in-person. Short-term, we don't really like to put a number on it because it's not like everybody gets their 10 sessions. It's more whatever the clinical need is. And for some students that might have a need for beyond 10 sessions, like I said, we would help them get set up off campus. Or for students that really want to work through something that we might be able to do within 10 sessions, we would take that work on together. Then there are those cases where somebody could benefit from longer term, but they don't either have the time, resources, or energy to do that. Then we could see that student. But again, we wouldn't see them all the way up to that limit of 10 because we wouldn't want to get to 10, stop, and then have something like a crisis happen because then we couldn't see them again. So we usually like to think around 5 or 6 sessions, depending on the clinical need. And then two very important parts of our services is there's no additional cost. It's wrapped up into your student fees so that we don't charge anything to use our services. And then they're strictly confidential. so students can feel secure that what they say in caps stays in caps. The only limitation to that is if there's a legal need for us to disclose information, like if there was a risk of suicide or homicide, and or mention of child abuse or elder abuse, but only in cases when we could do something to prevent any of those things from happening. The other restriction or limitation to confidentiality, I guess it's not a limitation, but if a student wanted us to release that information, we certainly could. We would just need their written permission. Like I said before, case management, that would be referrals for out-of-state or ongoing specialty care. The student doesn't need to be a client of CAPS to get case management. If they just know that they want referrals for off-campus, we can help with that. They don't need to set up an appointment, meet with one of us, and then get those referrals. They can just get that set up right through the front desk. And then the last thing I'll say about our services is consultation. And that's, say, if you have concerns about somebody else, not so much yourself, but if, say, you have a roommate that's cutting or that's drinking a lot, or you just have concerns about somebody, a friend, a roommate, somebody, we can consult with you. And this is something we offer to faculty, staff, parents, anybody can call our office. And if they have a concern about a student, and we can just help run through different options that are available. I see a question. Sorry, I'm not very attentive to the questions. 6 to 10 sessions per, oh, thank you very much. It's per academic year. So academic year is from July 1st through June 30th, and then it rolls over. So it's not uncommon for us to see students throughout their academic career, the 4 years, 5 years, more than 10 times. Sometimes we call it serial short term, but if things just kind of keep arising, but it's not that crisis where they need to be seen every week, sometimes we do kind of stretch that out and see students for a good number of times. Thanks for that question. Right. So other health services on campus, I'm not going to go too deep into these. Hopefully you'll be hearing from some of these offices. But when we think of health services on campus, we think of disability services, student health center, and CAPS. Disability services, obviously, they provide accommodations for students who might have a registered disability. And we work very closely with them to provide them with documentation or to refer students if there is something that's going on that might interfere with a student's academic progress. And then the Student Health Center also, we work very closely with them. They do physical health, we do mental health. Student Health Center also does some mental health where they can prescribe medications for mental health needs. And so we would refer to them and or somebody off campus, but we often refer to them for prescription medication when that is indicated. They also have a psychiatric nurse practitioner, somebody who specializes for some of the more complex cases. And then student support services, we don't like to think of CAPS or Student Health Center or Disability Services as being the only people that you can talk to about certain things that happen in life. There are a lot of resources and a lot of people who are very well trained when it comes to responding to sort of your things that are gonna come up. And when students are students in a big community, things are going to come up that are not pathological. You don't need a professional counselor to work through certain things that are just very common, very normal. And so a lot of the offices that are listed there are fully capable, and they while they aren't strictly confidential like CAPS is, they are private. And so you can have conversations with them about different things, and they won't get on the bullhorn and say, hey, Joe is having these issues, right? They would only report up to the people that would need to hear about certain things. So oftentimes we get our referrals from these offices if it does rise up to that level of being a clinical need. But oftentimes they don't refer because it's not. It's something like maybe there's a roommate conflict, or maybe there's a concern that isn't necessarily a mental health concern, but something that is more of a conduct concern. So all of these offices and resources on campus can manage certain mental and physical health concerns. Urgent concerns are a different story. If something's happening, somebody's having a panic attack, they're cutting, they're threatening, these sorts of things. these are the offices to really be aware of if there's assaults on campus. Office of Institutional Equity is a great resource. They are also strictly confidential. So they are a resource that where somebody who is assaulted can utilize those resources. Or if somebody feels like it's an unsafe learning environment, if there's harassment, these sorts of things. Care Team is a really great resource. It's not that strictly confidential, but its purpose is to not be, actually. So if, say, a professor, a parent, or a staff person has a concern about a student, or if another student has a concern about a student, this is a resource where that person can get on the radar of a whole variety of different offices and people. An example that I like to give, say, if a student has a death in the family and then they stop showing up to class and maybe they're sleeping a lot more. If a lot of people are noticing behavioral changes, then it's really great to have one centralized place that just can respond in an appropriate way. Because if somebody just stops coming to class, we don't want to penalize them, right? We want to see what's going on. We want to come at it from a position of care. So the Care Team is a great resource, and that falls under the Dean of Students. The Dean of Students is the chair of the Care Team. So the Dean of Students is also a resource that can be reached out to in these times. Public safety is another one. Public safety, they really like to differentiate themselves from Seattle police, and they are very different. They do not carry weapons. They are trained to respond to really anything that comes across on campus. I like to list them here because CAPS, if somebody's having, say, a panic attack on campus, CAPS, because of our confidentiality and the care that we have, we can't respond. We can't go to somebody's dorm room to respond to a mental health crisis. We have to kind of be that safe resource that students come to. That's what makes it voluntary. However, public safety can respond to any mental health, physical health crisis, or threatening crisis that might happen on campus. And they have a great relationship with Seattle police when that's necessary. Panic attack, not necessary to involve the police, but public safety also has a great relationship with the local hospitals, and they can respond in a way that is, I find, very caring. So they're a great resource for urgent needs. Here's something else if it's not really public and nobody's really seeing what's going on, but you or somebody that you know or one of the students is having a crisis, say in their dorm room where they don't want to involve anybody else. These are some confidential resources. So 988, it's kind of like 911. It's relatively new. Not everybody knows about it, but it's the shorthand for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Somebody does not need to be suicidal to use this. It can be, I'm having a panic attack. I'm going through a crisis. Somebody that I know deeply just died. I need to talk with somebody about this now. 988 is a great resource. Texting 741-741 is another way to talk with a crisis counselor confidentiality. And then Talk Now, I'll talk a little bit what Talk Now falls under, but Talk Now is a resource to students. It's free of charge. It's an alternative to CAPS. It's kind of like a supplement to what CAPS offers, and it can be used without an appointment. The person just needs to get registered with Timely Care before they use Talk Now, and I'll talk about Timely Care here. So Timely Care and Talk Now, they're kind of one and the same. Timely Care is for mental and physical health, some scheduled appointments for psychiatry, for group sessions. They do some medical, they do health coaching, they do a whole lot of things, and it's all virtual. And then as part of that, they have this Talk Now, which is 24/7. Somebody can reach out and get somebody usually within 5 minutes to talk to. Great resource, great supplement to what CAPS and the Student Health Center does. The contact information for all of these is online. And somebody wrote a question. If somebody seeks care within CAPS and will need care for 3 to 4 months, will they get an assigned person till issue is resolved, or is it a mixed match of providers? No. Thank you. Great question. At CAPS, we rotate. So we can't really accommodate specific requests. That say if a student said that they saw Mike talk at this outreach, I want to work with Mike. Unfortunately, it would be the next clinician in line. That's how we kind of share the caseload. But if then somebody worked with me and thought I was terrible, they could then request a different therapist. Or if they were seeking somebody of color or a female, they could absolutely request that. We can't always meet those needs just because of the makeup of the clinicians, or some of the clinicians might be full and not accepting new clients. But once you are with one of the clinicians, that is the clinician you would see. The only exception with that at CAPS is if you did then come in on urgent care at a certain time. Once we have urgent care up and going, you would see whoever is on call at that time. But that wouldn't then be a transfer that now you are seeing that therapist. It would just be a one-time meeting with that therapist, and then you would go back to your original single therapist. Great question, thank you. Oh, another question. Can you please explain the difference between scheduled counseling and CAPS? For someone who may need regular counseling, which approach is better? Sounds like scheduled counseling is a better option. So yeah, thank you for that. CAPS, what we do is scheduled counseling. So we would set somebody up for, the person would call the front desk, set up an initial intake or an initial evaluation, and that would be scheduled. Then that person would come in and say, see me, and I would do an evaluation with that person. And in that evaluation, we would talk about collaboratively what the best needs are, what the best fit is for that student. Say if that student is looking for something very specialized or longer term, I would help them get set up with that off campus. But if what they're looking for fits within the scope of our practice at CAPS, we would set up scheduled meetings. Typically, we meet about every other week. That's just the best way that we can manage the demand of the students that we see and still do relatively deeper therapy. We can do some really deep and good quality work meeting with students every other week. Sometimes based on crisis, we might see somebody every week, but it would just to work through that crisis. And then we would go back to the every other week. Sometimes students just like to check in every once in a while, and that's not unheard of, that we might meet with somebody once a month. And if we did that, we would basically get through the entire year. And not extend past the 10 sessions, even though there's more than 10 months, but with certain holidays and summer, that would usually work. So hopefully that answered the question around scheduled counseling and CAPS. All right, so that's it for timely care. And actually, that's it for my presentation. Short and sweet. Any questions that are remaining? I think I see a raised hand. I don't know if that's a new raised hand or not. You want to type into the questions. That would probably be the easiest way for me to see the questions. There we go. The difference between CAPS and scheduled counseling. Yeah, CAPS, Counseling and Psychological Services, offers scheduled counseling. It is one of the things that we offer, as well as we will be offering urgent care and groups, but scheduled counseling is one of the main services that CAPS offers. If we were to refer somebody off campus, that off-campus therapist would also offer scheduled counseling. Does that clarify? Okay, great. Okay, great. I see a yes. All right. Any other questions that I can answer? You're always welcome to reach out to CAPS. Usually the phone is the easiest way. We do have an email, and it's just caps@seattleu or su.edu. or seattleu.edu. And that's our email. You're always welcome to email with questions, but the phone is a lot of times the easiest way. You would get our front desk person. He is very knowledgeable about really anything, but if it requires something more of confidential nature or something more nuanced, he would then route it to one of the therapists, and we're happy to answer any questions that anybody would have about our services or about anything more specific. Yeah, so I can provide that phone number if you would like. It is 206. Hopefully you have something to write down. I'm not very technologically savvy, if you can't tell. It's 206-296-6090. Again, 296-6090, area code 206. All right. Well, thank you very much. Again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, I wish you all the best. Thanks.